Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Chartreuse Leprechaun. My name is Mark, your host, and we're doing a rare Sunday video. YouTube algorithms are not friendly to Sunday videos, or so I've heard, but, well, you all deserve something to explain what the heck happened this week. Now, I want the Leprechaun to be up to his old tricks. All the technical issues, the confusion, the stress we had this week should be blamed on him, right? Yeah, sure. Well, not really. So be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, set yourself up for notifications, all that fun stuff. You don't want to miss anything around here. As usual, it's interesting and definitely never boring. First, instead of health updates, we're going to do technical updates. So it's been crazy since Wednesday when my computer completely crashed while rendering the video for Fallout 4. And it kept doing it over and over and over. And my stress levels were going crazy. Strangely, though, my blood pressure never got weird. Well, no weirder than it's been since I left the hospital anyway. I was certain it was Davinci Resolve somehow because, well, it was only doing it when I rendered a video, and I used Davinci Resolve for that. So I jumped into the Davinci forums, and after some back and forth, we thought it might be a power or maybe a memory issue. Okay, so I went to Amazon using one of my kids' Amazon Prime accounts. I love my kids. I really do. So I ordered a new power supply and some new RAM. Now the power supply is this Apivia 900 watt power supply. Now, I plan to get a bigger power supply at some point because we're going to get a newer GPU sooner or later, and we're going to need more power to do that. And I just had to do it sooner than planned. Now, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Sorry about that. Now, the RAM I ordered is this RAM from Team Group. If you remember, we had 2400 megahertz RAM that we boosted in BIOS to 3200. Thought that might be an issue. So, knowing actual 3200 megahertz is better, I got some 3200 megabytes RAM. Now, on the bright side, the old parts can go in our build that will replace the beast. Got a Ryzen 5 3400G processor. Since we don't have a discrete GPU and can't afford to buy one, we now have 32 gigabytes of 2400 megahertz RAM that I just removed from this computer. We also have the old 600 watt power supply that I also removed from this computer. We kind of hoped the old case for that Z400 would work, and it sort of does. Yeah, only about a third of the screws actually line up with the mount points on this AMD board. So, yeah, we need a new case. Well, my son, who wants the computer, said he would take a shot at building a test bench instead of buying a new case. We'll see how that goes. I think we're going to end up spending $50-$60 on a new case. On the downside, none of those substitutions solved the problem. And I was butting up against the Fallout 4 deadline, so I reinstalled Lightworks. I hate editing in that program. You can't do precise editing. You can kind of sort of get close, but it's awful. I was so glad to be able to figure out how to use Davinci. But, yeah, the computer crashed using Lightworks, too. So Davinci Resolve wasn't actually the problem. I was stumped. And for whatever reason, that was when I decided to check the operating temperatures. Temps were good for operating, about 45°C. Good number. They were perfect for gaming, about 55°C. God, I love that number. They were perfect for gaming and recording, 60 to 65°C. Perfect. And when I went to render a video, it immediately shot up to 100 and kept climbing. God, I felt like such a noob. Why did I never check the temperatures? So I pulled the cooler and the CPU, and the first issue was way too much thermal paste. It took a billion, well, okay, maybe a couple dozen isopropyl alcohol wipes to get all that goop off. Yeah, had to get all that goop off. And once I did, I could apply repaste, and that's when I fired up the computer, and I had to go into BIOS because, you know, I pulled the CPU. We got a happy puppy down there. Either that or my wife has something that the dog wants. Anyway, I went into BIOS, and that's when I realized I wasn't hearing the fans. So I checked that, and the rear exhaust fan had a perfect operating curve. The CPU and the two front fans, only one setting. There was no curve, so they weren't ramping up to deal with the heat. So many noobish errors. On the bright side, after taking care of all that, the temp stayed around 74°C during rendering, and you know it completed successfully because the Fallout 4 video went up yesterday. And I expect to have the next episode of Subnautica Below Zero on time, and God willing, we'll stay on track after that. Yeah, so that's the full story on what was going on with all the technical stuff. So let's move on to health updates, and got kind of a mixed bag of good and not so good. On the bright side, I did lower my oxygen today to 3 liters from 3.5. Felt the difference almost immediately. I had a short period of lightheadedness, kind of to be expected, but it cleared up pretty fast. And my blood ox levels are still in the mid-90s. So yay, that's exactly what we want. The only time the blood oxygen levels get bad is when I'm exercising and forget to breathe through my nose, or I take it off, like for a shower or something. The blood ox levels crater hard. Low 80s during exercise. It even hit the upper 70s when I tested by taking a shower. So on the downside, I clearly still need that supplemental oxygen. At the same time, my breath volume is not where we need it to be. There's this gizmo they gave me. I think they call it a spirometer. I don't remember for sure. Obviously, the name is not on it, or I could, tell you. It measures the volume of your breathing. They gave me one after every surgery was out for a long time. The shoulder, the lower back, the neck. Anyway, you want to be above 2,500 in the scale in that thing, and I'm barely making 1,500, occasionally 2,000, but I'm not breaking it. Been that way since they gave it to me in the hospital. They told me to use the thing often, but no one could agree on how often is supposed to be. One person told me you should use it during like every commercial break on TV. Ooh, that's a lot. Another person said, once an hour should be good. That sounds okay. One person said you need to do sets of 10. Another person said sets of 5. I just love it when medical people are in agreement, don't you? Oh, meanwhile, PT is going better. Other than my leg muscles still complaining about the workload, I'm doing much better. It's not a struggle to get up and down the stairs anymore. Doesn't kill me to kneel and get back up after loving on the dogs or cleaning up their messes. I can actually cook again. I mean, well, it's just scrambled eggs so far with, veggies and whatnot in it, but it's a start, right? So yeah, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, still progress. So once again, small victories are still victories. I'm celebrating mine. You be sure to celebrate yours, whatever they might be. And you know what? I think that is enough for now. I want to thank you for spending your time with us today at the Chartreuse Leprechaun. We really do appreciate it during these days of COVID and technical, I don't even know what to call it. Please leave us a comment about today's video or any video or whatever, what you like, what you didn't like, and of course all the stuff we usually ask about. Didn't this time, game ideas, channel improvement ideas, suggestions for, well, whatever. We'll honestly take whatever feedback you want to give us because we want your input to get better. Also, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, set yourself up for notifications so you don't miss anything around here. Check out our merch page. The link is in the description below, along with our Patreon page link. But above all, always remember, if you see it and you can't quite explain it, you can be sure the Leprechaun did it. Except for technical stuff. Anyway, you have yourselves a great day, and we will see you here next time on the Chartreuse Leprechaun. Bye-bye.